Hello and welcome to today's webinar, which is all part of a series. Over the next few weeks, I'll be bringing you ways to help manage your energy on your fertility journey. And today we kickstart with creating a radical self-care plan to really help nourish and nurture your energy whilst you're on this very unique and challenging journey. So who am I? I'm Tara Palaki, founder of the Feminine Space, and I work with women who are either going through and very active in their journeys, as in coming through considering IVF, or having sadly experienced miscarriage, or have been trying to conceive for a number of months or years, to really help nourish and create sacred spaces where you can come back to yourself and really look at what it is that you need. I think the world of fertility is so incredibly saturated with things like what exercise to do, what diet to follow, what nutritional supplements to have, which is brilliant, and I think it has such a valid place in this industry. But I'm really, really conscious of where there's a lot missing around the female experience in this, and what you need to be able to, let's be honest, get up each day, face some very extreme circumstances or challenges, or sometimes, you might not even be in a very active place and just had an IVF treatment fail. Maybe in that place of just being exceptionally raw in that day, because that's again part of the challenge of the fertility journey, is that there's so multifaceted, there's so many different moving parts to it, and usually they're very long journeys. They're not a month or too long. They tend to be over a year, 2, 3+ years. So the way how you look after yourself during this time is really, really key. And I see a number of women who experience a lot of burnout and exhaustion and being very stressed and overwhelmed. And a big part of that is because they're dealing with this enormous stuff that comes with a fertility journey. And yet they don't then have any tools in their toolkit to really help them navigate it. And when you go online, when they go online, they learn so much about perhaps acupuncture or what supplements or diet to follow, which is great. But what they don't learn about is actually how to help matters of your heart, how to manage the everyday overwhelm like this. The conversations with your partner, your friendships, your finances, your hormones, your stress. That's an area where I don't believe we're so strong, and that's what the feminine space is all around, is really looking at helping women to create toolkits like you to suffer a little less and create a little bit more energy and ease. So today is all about this beautiful topic of self-care, and we hear it everywhere, don't we? Self-care is plastered all over. I think it's a big theme of 2020. I think it's been a big theme of the last couple of years. And but I don't know that we've really got that deep understanding of what self-care is. And as women, I can really observe these blocks and resistance to nurturing ourselves or making time for ourselves. There can be a lot of guilt attached to it. There can be a lot of it just seems less important or less of value. No, it's not, but there can be that perception that having that time out is less of value than it is of doing something quite tasked, such as taking the right supplement. And so what happens is that women have a desperate need for this area of self-care, but yet they don't get it. And that then further leads to depletion. It further leads to these energetic drains, to these energy drains, sorry. So today, what I want to do in this webinar during our time together is to really focus on what self-care looks like to you, and why do you need it, and make it really applicable to you. I'm not going to sit here and just spout stuff off, but actually I want you to get involved with this, and I want you to use this time to start getting curious and exploring what it is that you need and why. And then with that, what we're going to look at doing is what's stopping you. What is there? Practical support? Is it that you just don't know? Is it that actually there isn't the money, the finance? Or actually, is there a deeper rooted emotional element to this? Which often there is. That's where you're not feeling deserving of this, or feel, that you find it difficult to express to others what it is that you want or need. And so there can be all these different layers to something as can be perceived as easy as self-care, but yet there's so many different layers to it, which is why we're going to look at all of them. And this is also, we're not just going to look at those, but I'm going to give you some tools straight away today that are going to shift some of those blocks, some of those things that are stopping you from being able to create this self-care plan that's going to really help energize and empower you on your journey. And you might be curious about why I've used the word radical. Well, I've called this radical self-care because you are on a very intense journey. And I believe many, many women scaled down the impact, the effect, and the size of this particular journey, because it's not recognized by many people outside of you, is it? If those around you haven't had fertility challenges, sadly, a number of people aren't aware. And then couple that with any shame that might be coming up, because sadly, this is still an area where there is a lot of shame. That then creates some secrecy and wanting to sort of hold things in. So if it's not spoken about or recognized by others, then and you've got shame and you don't then start to speak and share about it, what you can do is start to dismiss things, or create a lot of self-judgment of, I should just get over this. I should just be able to deal with this. It's not a big deal. Why am I making it a big deal? And I'm here to say it is a big deal. It isn't just the absence of a baby. Every part of your life will be affected by this, sadly. It is enormously exhausting. And sadly is very under-talked about with real meaningful, open and honest conversations. And that I don't believe is helpful, which is why I've started this series. I went through my fertility journey 7 years long, and I know going through it that I saw these massive voids in the support that was offered. I think we've got the medical stuff nailed. I think we've got the procedural stuff again nailed, things like what supplement to take at what point. But I do believe that there is a massive void around you, your emotions, your personal experience, and how to navigate it, the complexities of this in all those areas, your stress levels, your hormones, your friendships, your romantic relationships, your finances, and your support network. So with all of that in mind, kind of look at some of these today. So let's begin. Okay, what I encourage you to do, if you don't have already, is to go and get a pen and a piece of paper, because this is going to involve you. And if you can't get hold of one, either come back and do this on the replay or hold this in your mind's eye. But what I want to encourage you to do is to now start to jot down some of the answers to this question. Why do you need to create self-care on your fertility journey. So let me explain what this might be. The reason why I connect you with your why is because it can be very easy if you don't feel like you've got a reason, if you don't connect with this idea that you have a reason, it's much easier to dismiss. It's much easier to put this to the bottom of your to-do list. So, and it's much easier to find lots of excuses or reasons as to why you won't do this. So what I invite you to do is to start jotting down why you need self-care. So some of the answers for this might be that you're just feeling exhausted. Each and every day, it's hard work getting up and out of bed. You're exhausted, you're like a zombie at work, and you can't wait to come home to bed at the end of each evening. It might be that you're feeling massively overwhelmed by everything that you've got to do. It might be that you are really, every day, you're finding it harder and harder to find things to enjoy. You're finding it harder and harder to find those moments of happiness, of joy, of celebration. It might be that you and your partner are beginning to argue more and more. And that very real effect of this. It could be that socially you're finding yourself retreating, and that when it comes to the opportunity to have a gathering, you're like, no, you don't want to be doing any of that, or you're finding it harder to talk and share with some of your friends. Again, these can all be parts of the reason as to why you need to create a self-care plan. Maybe you're starting to consider IVF, or you are going through IVF. Sorry, I don't know what's going on in my ear. 1 second. IVF is a very big deal. It really is. Again, this is another area of the fertility journey that I believe we massively underplay and underestimate the enormity and the impact of it. And I would always recommend to any client who's going to be going through IVF for the first time, or this might be, if this is your third or fifth time, that actually you have a really robust self-care plan in place to be able to mentally, physically, and energetically manage and be in the best position to be able to navigate and cope with everything. Maybe you sadly experienced a miscarriage or baby loss. And this again is a very, don't underestimate the exhaustion, the grief that's felt here. And with that, the rawness and the tenderness. So again, be aware with this, you might have different needs at different points in your journey. If you think back to the first couple of months of thinking, oh, I want to have a baby, let's go and see what we can do, versus being a year in, 5 years in. There's some very different scenarios with that. So really looking at what your needs are and why you need self-care. It's really, really important. So as I've been speaking, hopefully that's stirred some stuff up for you. And so just begin to write those things down. And this becomes your why. Just taking a few moments to really explore what are some of your reasons for needing self-care. There might be something physical. Your body's very, very tired. You're exhausted. Might be actually starting to hurt. A number of women back start to go. Start developing injuries, or don't digest properly, start to experience tummy troubles. It might be to do with mentally, in terms of you're finding it much harder to think clearly, getting very foggy brained, making decisions is becoming a lot harder. It might be you're just experiencing a lot of mental overwhelm, or it could be emotionally that you have been very much in this cycle of grief and sadness and loss and lack, and finding it harder to experience any form of joy or happiness, which is tiring. Could just be, energy wise, you're feeling really disconnected from yourself, from others, feeling very alone. These are all really valid reasons to start creating a self-care plan for you. Okay. And now I invite you to explore this question. What does self-care look like for you? And what would it be like for you? So what do I mean by this? Now, you may have an idea. This may be a totally new concept to you. That's absolutely okay. So what does self-care, could it look like? Now, during my experience, like I said at the start, self-care can be different for everybody. So I remember recommending meditation to one of my clients who's very creative, always on the go, and recommended meditation. And she tried it 2, 3, 4 times and came back to me and was like, no, this is not working. She said, I don't generally sit down and sit still. So now trying to create a practice that's supposed to be self-care and nourishing is actually really stressful, because you're forcing me to sit down and I feel like I'm being forced to sit down and do nothing. So what I suggested then was looking at meditation, because I still believe it's incredibly helpful, that you go on walking meditations or dancing meditations, and you begin to engage with the practice of meditation and mindfulness in a way that actually meets your needs. So this might be something for you, meditation, but again, what does it look like for you? If you think that it's not going to be practical for you to sit down, then okay, what about walking meditations? What about dancing meditation? All equally valid. Maybe self-care looks like being able to slow down, not rush everywhere. I often see women trying to fit fertility journeys around their lives. And, I'm okay, I don't need to do anything different. But I'm going to suggest that by the sheer nature, they're going to take up if you're a battery, like we all are, if you imagine yourself as a battery source of energy, fertility journeys take up a lot of your energy. Your mental space is in your mind space. They take up a lot of your physical energy, especially depending on if you're going through something like IVF or having just experienced a loss. But they will also take your energy even when you're not having to go through an active state like that. They will be taking your battery energy for just the sheer planning and logistics and everything you've got to think about, as well as, like I said, when you get invited to things, you suddenly then need to deal with what might be your potential triggers. It might be a baby shower, it might be the family barbecue, but you've got everybody there, your brothers and sisters are there with their children. And this all creates a drain on your energy. So this is why I really encourage, I see women very, very challenged by the idea of rest. Somehow, at some point, we link rest with failure and or not being enough or losing. And that just simply isn't true. So self-care may be something that, having time on the sofa and not feeling guilty for it. Self-care might be having a business and giving yourself the space to enjoy running your business, mindfully creating relationships with people or being in scenarios that actually you get to enjoy. It could be time out by yourself, or this could be going on holiday. Some of the best self-care may be knowing when to take a break from the fertility journey, from actively trying, and just popping a lot of that on hold. Or maybe it is spending time away from friends who do have children, if that's triggering you, or the pregnant friends. Having some of the conversations, and that might be part of the self-care, is having the conversation with some of your friends to say, I love you, but right now this is a little bit challenging for me. And I can strongly advocate this. Some of your best self-care, social media, the news, turn it off. You know, have digital detoxes, have time away from, especially things like Facebook at the moment. I know is littered with lots of family pictures. And you need to have a break from some of that. Being reminded every day of what you don't have. So have a feel into what self-care could look like for you, and how might it be. Another one can be saying no to social events, being able to not have to be here, there and everywhere, but actually time at home, and knowing that that's okay. Some of my favourite self-care also involved reading. I mean, how does reading sound to you? Or getting stuck into a course. I love learning, so I really enjoyed learning things that were nothing to do with fertility and all of that jazz that I was just doing for me. Going to mindfulness or meditation evenings, yoga, and exercise became a massive part of my self-care. This might be something for you. I know that I started PT sessions and I started HIIT workouts to really burn off some of the challenges around this. But it may also be that you need to do something like a yin or restorative yoga practice. I know that that was also something that I needed too. So list all of these things down. This is what self-care looks like for you. And you know what? It might also involve chocolate. Let's be honest, we're women. I know that part of my self-care practice involved crisps and chocolate at certain points. It also involved apples, and you know, I naturally eat very well, but sometimes only the junk would do. And I gave myself permission to do that. And again, part of your self-care may be to find ways to beat yourself up a little less, to speak that bit kinder to yourself, be more compassionate to yourself. So I want you to come up with a list of about 5 to 10 things that would help you that would feel like they nourish you, would feel like they're good practices of self-care. And you might have a bath in there. You might have essential oils. I really love essential oils. I think they're so nourishing. It might be that therapy is part of your self-care. And I can't advocate that enough. Sometimes self-care isn't just the nice, like, face pats, but is doing the work to help you deal with this. It's finding somebody who is really experienced within this field to upload and share with, and that you can speak freely. Again, a number of people I know who have clients I've supported have needed somebody outside of their family or their friends or their relationship to share and express. And very simply, that's because it's just too clogged up. They fear hurting others, or they fear being told, like, not being heard or understood. And you know, at a time when there's enough heartache, then looking at ways to just keep it as easy so that they can get the true support that they need in the most honest way that they can receive. Okay, so you started to create a list now. Beautiful. Coming on to the third question. So, is there anything practical holding you back from self-care? And this is very real. So, what do I mean by this? So, it might even be you hear this term self-care and you don't know what it means for you. You don't know where to begin with this. Or it might be that you just feel like you can't find the time. You know, you're working really hard at the moment. How are you going to fit in your self-care plan? Like, you've got the self-care, but you just haven't got the time. or you're not sure where to start. You know, you look at your list of things to do and you just think, I could do all of these things, but I don't know what I need right now. Or it could be that actually you feel financially that you can't commit to some of the things on your list, or you feel like self-care actually is going to be too expensive for you. And I see this a lot with women who are saving up for fertility treatment, that they just feel like they can't afford to invest in other things that they deem as having less priority. But what I'm here to say is that if you are going to be going through IVF, you are your number one priority. And the journey is made that little bit easier. And I'm saying that little bit easier because I don't believe it's an easy process. And you can make yourself a little bit more comfortable if you've done therapy, if you've got somewhere to go to be able to talk and express, if you have places where you can be nurtured, massaged, yoga, you know, spaces that are really dedicated to you. Or maybe part of the practical thing is you just don't see it, you don't think that you're worth it. Or there can be the other part of thinking, well, I do all this self-care and I still don't feel any better. So what's the point? Yeah, or you're just not sure where to start. You've seen a yoga class you'd like to do, or you'd like to do yoga, but you don't know who to go to. Or there can be that very real, this is what I want to do, but to explain it to other people, actually, perhaps you don't feel very strong in communicating what you want or need, or you fear that you'll be laughed at by them or not understood. That can be a very real thing. So again, have a feel into, jot down what some of the practical things might be holding you back. And finally, what are your emotional blocks to self-care? This is probably the biggest thing that I see women struggle with, because we're not really taught how to deal with our emotions yet. And many of us, we are very emotional beings. And so we start these fertility journeys, have the highs and lows, and then the emotional fallout, the emotional baggage is huge. And yet we don't really talk about it. It gets summed up in that statement of, it's very stressful, isn't it? IVF is stressful. Fertility journey is stressful. It's like, well, what the blooming hell does that actually mean? It means what it means to you. And I think we can really dismiss our emotions on this journey, and I'm actively encouraging you to bring them out and explore them, because your emotions are so powerful that they will consciously or unconsciously be steering you through your life. They will be the things that basically give you the green light to go ahead on something and put on the brakes and stop something. They are the things that give you permission to take action or not. So, and this is actually what we're going to be starting to come on and shifting. So, and again, please know that this might feel very alien to you, and that's okay, because we're often not encouraged to come into our emotions. We're much more encouraged in this logical, practical approach. But this is just as important, if not more so, because all the practical stuff won't come into fruition, or you won't really benefit from if you energetically, emotionally are blocked. So, what are emotions? This might show up as you being fearful of being criticized or judged by others. So, for example, your self-care need, you might actually want to go vegan, but you're really fearful about how you'll be perceived by your partner or in your family. You may feel this sense of, I see this a lot with women who are further into their journeys, where you feel like your body in your womb has let you down in some way. So the last thing you want to do is nurture it. You know, it's this separation from yourself. It might be like, feeling so powerful in this. It might be that you're just terrified or incredibly fearful of IVF and what it may mean to you. So you want to avoid it. And it might be that actually a part of you really wants sex or remembers how great sex was for you and your partner, but actually now, you know, you want to get pregnant, but you're fearful of it because perhaps you've had other miscarriages, or it's become so contaminated and challenging since you've been on your fertility journey. So you end up with these strong emotions. You might fear asking for something and not being listened to or understood. So an example of that might be wanting to have a chat with one of your besties and then just not getting this, what you're going through. And that adds to further heartache. Or it might be that you're lacking confidence, self-worth or self-belief around meeting your own care needs. You know, do I even deserve this? Oh, I couldn't make this work. Or, you know, is this even helpful? And again, I do see this, women do tell me this in terms of that they resist self-care or looking after themselves because at some level they believe that they're a failure or weak or stupid. These are sadly some of the words that I've heard coming out with women, and I really encourage you to have some time to be honest if this is some of the stuff that's coming up for you, because this is not my opinion in any shape or form, but sadly this is what I do see women starting to talk to themselves, or how they talk to themselves. And self-care can be very difficult to give yourself if you're feeling so negatively about yourself. So just write all these things down that are emotional things and emotional triggers that are coming up for you. And I get that this might feel a bit uncomfortable, and that's why in a moment I'm going to be taking you through a process to help you, so you won't be left with all of these feelings. So if you're starting to feel anxious and worried and overwhelmed about how you're feeling, don't worry, I've got you. You're not being left with all of this stuff. It's just important for you to go through these processes to become aware as to what's going on in your life, so that actually by looking at it and becoming aware, you can then do the next part of my process, which will be starting to shift some of this, let go of some of this, so that actually you can then start to take the actions that are going to be most rewarding and nurturing and helpful for you on your journey. Okay, so if this is you and you're still going, by all means pause this recording. You can pick it up when you're ready. If you're ready, let's go. So to start with, what I want you to do is to hold these points gently on your forehead. These are, if you go to your forehead, you can see, excuse the wrinkle, you can see that there's two, you can feel that there's almost like two little bumps, bits that stick out a little bit further than other parts. These little nodules, or these little parts, I want you to very, very gently hold onto them. So you're going to very, very lightly press on them. These are called ESR points, or emotional stress release points. And whilst you're holding these, I want you to really think about all the things that we've been discussing, especially the stuff that's coming up. You know, if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, starting to feel like like you think of all the things that your fertility journey means to you, and all the sadness and the heartache, I really just want you to feel into it right now. It's the difficulty with friendships, the elephant that's in the room between you and others. you don't get to speak about feeling alone or lost. And just keep holding these points as you just start to bring all of this up. And start to think about how you'd like to be giving yourself a greater level of self-care. Think about all the challenges and the resistance that come up. So all those things that we spoke about at the beginning, what you'd like to be feeling, how you'd like to be showing up for yourself. But perhaps there's so much that's resistance or challenges. Start to really think about those. Start to think about how you'd like to be feeling instead of perhaps how you do. How you'd like to be experiencing a bit more joy, for example, or energy, or hope. And actually instead you're feeling very sad, very stressed. Start to have a think about what you'd like your goal to be, what you'd like to achieve. And that's not just about having a baby or not, but might also be about having a day where you've got the energy for your day, starting to have laughter, fun again. Maybe go through IVF. That might be your goal. And think about any emotional blocks we've got around fear, rejection, overwhelm, frustration, judgment, time challenge, or even comparisonitis. I see that a lot of, that person's gone through worse and they seem to be okay with it. Why aren't I? Okay. Well done. I get that this isn't an easy part of the process. It's a good, well done. Right, now let's start to clear some of this so you're not left with this all. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to be doing the actions myself and I want you to then take over. Sorry, I'm going to be doing the actions and I want you to then follow me, saying the same things that I'm going to be saying. So you're going to start by tapping the outside of your hand. And you're going to start with statements that say, even though I, and then we'll say a statement, and then you finish that statement off by saying, I deeply and completely love myself. So follow my lead. Even though I want to get comfortable with self-care and looking after myself, I know that I'm not doing this at the moment. I deeply and completely love myself. And then coming onto to the crown of your head, gently tapping around there. Even though I want to care for myself, I can think of so many reasons why I don't. Don't have enough time, don't have enough money, don't have enough energy. I deeply and completely love myself. And then coming between the eyes. Even though I look at others and they seem to be dealing with this all so well, I don't feel like I can give everything I need. I feel like I'm being silly or demanding. I deeply and completely love myself. Into that side of the eyes. Even though I think I know what I need and what I want, I'm worried about telling others. I fear that they'll judge me or laugh at me. I'm worried what they'll say or think of me. I deeply and completely love myself. Even though I want to take care of my needs, pamper myself, invest time and energy in myself, feel like I don't deserve to. I deeply and completely love myself. And then under your nose. Even though I really want support from other people, my friends, my family, I feel like they misunderstand me. I feel like they just don't get it. I deeply and completely love myself. Even though I love my friends and family, I just need some space. And I just want to say no, I want to be at home. Because they don't get what I'm going through. but I feel so guilty. I deeply and completely love myself. And coming onto your collarbones. Even though I want to feel better, I don't know if I can. I've been through so much. I deeply and completely love myself. Okay, and then just underneath your armpit at the side of your body. Even though I want some more energy, just want to be feeling better, and I'm worried I won't. And I just feel so lost with where to start. I deeply and completely love myself. Okay. And now I want to invite you to place one hand over your heart area and one hand over your lower abdomen, your womb area. And just start to take some really nice deep breaths in and out. And in. And out. Good. Okay, now I just want you to shake everything out. Let go of it all. We've brought a lot of stuff up and now we began clearing it. Good work. Okay. And now we're going to continue with some of this clearing. So just placing your fingers on what this point is called CV21, and it sits just underneath your nose. So this is a process. I want you to just very, very lightly hold on to this. And if you have start to connect with anything where you may feel like you've experienced feeling like a failure or overwhelm, or where things haven't gone according to plan, you know, these are things that you might think of, because this point is great for processing and clearing any feelings of feeling like a failure. So start to just think of these things that you might, you know, be holding on to. They might be fertility related. There might be nothing to do with that. You know, you beat yourself up that you can't be the best friend that you used to be because your best friend's pregnant. You might be feeling really guilty at the fact that, you know, you don't want to be going out so much anymore, or you want to be, you know, really looking after yourself, and you've got a lot of friends who drink and you don't want to be drinking anymore. So suddenly you feel like you'll be excluded from that. Or it might be that you're feeling like you should be able to cope, and yet you've had some days in bed and you're just feeling like you should have more. And again, these aren't, you know, any judgment, but I know that these are things that women come to me and can judge themselves over. Just very gently holding this point as you bring this up. Good. And then now I want you to come to these points, and these are really, really strong points. So they sit just in the sort of your shoulder crevice as your shoulder collarbone comes around. They sit just underneath your clavicles, and you're just going to hold these points here. Beautiful. These are your lung 1 points. These are all to do with grief and not feeling enough, which are, you know, there can be so much loss experienced, not just the physical loss, even though that's massive, the intensive baby loss, but also, you know, loss of hopes and dreams, feeling sad every time you get your period. So these are grief points, and they help to release. And I know a lot of you are holding on to a lot of stuff. Just sitting, oh, I can really feel these points, sort of a pulse to these points. Good. And sadly, these losses can leave you feeling like you're not enough in some way. And these are points to really help anchor that in terms of that worthiness. So seeing your, I am enough. Good. And then finally, these points that sit just underneath. So you've got your collarbones here, where the 2 points meet. If you just drop your hands down a little bit, you end up with 2 little dips underneath your collarbones. If you just gently place your hands here, and these are your K27s. And these are points where if you start to experience any fear or anxiety about any time on your journey, or if you're thinking about anything that you want to do and give yourself, that'd be a really good time to hold these points if you have any fear or angst coming up about how you do that or what this may mean. So know that these points are available for you to be holding at any time, not just during this, and they will really help support and take that charge out of the energy of fear, because it's very powerful, isn't it? And also the thing that I love about these points as well is that not only do they take down your fear and anxiety, reduce that, but really start to activate your intuition and really help you to hear that, which is like your inner guidance, your inner sat nav. And that is just so powerful. Okay. So once again, begin to shake it out, begin to let go of it all. Good. Okay. So this is the process. And this then, what we've done is clear some of the blocks and the resistance so that you can really now start to create a self-care plan that works for you and take action in it. And know that this will change and it's ever evolving. What you need today may not be what you need in a week's time. So go gentle with yourself, nurture yourself. Come back, watch this video again, take time out so that you can connect with this. Know it's so important. You're not going to find the answers when you're busy and full on. But time like this is where you will really start to access it and get to learn. And again, if this is something that's new to you, learn what helps you feel good. Get curious, have a play, go and explore. So great work today. So super proud of you for coming with me on this journey and to go into some of those perhaps more challenging spaces. I'm so deeply appreciative for you sharing your time and your energy with me. And if you have found this useful, I will be running more in the series and I will be emailing it out to you. So come join me live or watch on replay. Please know that you will benefit from either. So the energy of this and the intention of these videos is that they'll be connecting and working with you, supporting you, whether you are, like I say, watching it live and joining in, or if you are watching on replay. So do feel free to drop me a message after this, respond back to the email, and let me know what came up for you and how this resonates and how it has helped you. Always love hearing those stories. And I will be starting to share with you an up and coming group program that I'm going to be running. The community is so powerful. Meeting like-minded people who have similar journeys and shared experiences is so super helpful. And we're going to be taking a much deeper dive around these areas in your life, your finances, your support networks, your stresses, your hormones, and also your social networks. So really in your romantic relationships, to really start to explore how you can get those so that actually they're in the most nourishing and energized place to really help you get what it is that you need to go through the next parts of your journey. And any blocks that are there, get rid of them. Don't have to be holding on to them, and that you are fully in alignment to be taking the next steps, the next action in your fertility journey, whatever that may be. So keep a lookout for that, and I look forward to seeing you for the next webinar. Take care, my loves, go gentle, and self-care radically. Much love. Bye.